Hi guys, I'm Leslie and this is Will and Roar Arts, and today I'm kind of starting the video a little bit differently. Honestly, I made a mess of my studio and I'm not cleaning it at the moment. So I decided to just do this intro in front of my Christmas tree. And today I'm gonna start my Santa's Cottage project. This was a project I made basically out of recycled materials. You don't need fancy tools. I did use a laser cutter during this project, but you don't need a laser cutter. You can do everything with the X-Acto knife or a box cutter. So let's check it out. I designed my layout on my computer and then I cut it out on my laser cutter using just cardboard. I'm just using some regular hot glue to glue all the cardboard pieces together. Here I am just realizing, oops, I wanted the door to go on this side, so I flipped it around. So at first I didn't know how I wanted the roof line to be. I didn't know if I wanted a full, like both sides of the roof. So I just took a piece of cardboard and I scored it down the middle to give it that perfect bend. I want my walls to have a stone-like texture, so I'm using sand, a little bit of white paint, and glue. Just gonna mix that together, and this is going to give a great stone texture. I'm gonna paint this texture all over the outside of the cardboard. So not only does it make a great texture, it hardens the cardboard right up. So I'm designing my Santa cottage as I go. So I decided I wanted to have a little bit of a fancier front window. So I am cutting out this section of the house. Easy to do. With cardboard, you can change it up as you go because it's easy to cut through. And so you can add and take away as needed. To add this new front, I needed to cut away a little bit of the roof that I made. And then I'm going to trace around the space that I'm cutting out because for my next video, I'm going to make the inside of the Santa cottage and I want this space to be open. So I just hot glued that all together and there is the open space that I'll work on in the future. And now I'm just adding the roof to the front part of the cottage. I didn't need to score this part of the box because it was actually where the box already bent, so it was perfect. I added these white pieces of paper just to kind of cover up the seams. I don't think it was necessarily needed because I'm going to add shingles to the roof, but that's what I did there. In my original idea, I was going to have a window on both sides of the cottage, but I decided this side of the cottage needs a chimney, so I'm just covering up that hole. So to hide some of the corrugated edges, if I'm saying that right, I am using some joint compound, and that's what you see me doing here. Now I'm just going to continue covering everything with my sand and glue and paint mixture. Time to work on some shingles. I just use cereal boxes to make my shingles. These cut super easily on my laser cutter. If you have a laser cutter and you're cutting paper, you have to stand by it, watch it like a hawk. Anytime you cut anything, just stand by your laser. It's not worth any kind of fires happening. I want some height. So what I've done is I covered this and then I added a base, tissue boxes. These window frames are also made from cereal boxes. I also decided I didn't want a rectangular window here in the porch. I wanted the same shape window, so I changed that up. And I also made the door frame a little bit smaller as well. The great thing about cardboard projects is you can add to it or take away anytime. Also, the sand and glue mixture hides any seams, so it's like the greatest thing to use on these cardboard houses. I'm adding my porch roof here. And then I'm going to use some balsa wood to make the porch columns, I guess you would call them. Then I'm using my easy cutters to cut that balsa wood. It cuts like butter. Super easy. I want my shingles to be basically slate shingles, so I'm using a mixture of blacks, whites, and a little bit of brown to give the look of slate. And I added some glue to that as well to aid in gluing. I used hot glue, but the regular glue helps make sure it stays intact as well as strengthening it. I decided here that I'm going to just do away with that flap. I don't need it for what my plan is now. And I'm going to add some faux shingles just to kind of finish off the other side of the roof. So when creating anything, the best thing to do for your pieces is dry brushing. This adds a texture to your pieces and gives it that finished look. I added whites and browns and grays to my roof. I am using a dark brown and black mixture for all my window frames. So now I'm going to use some egg cartons pieces. I just ripped these. I don't cut them with scissors. I want the edge look to look jaggedy. And this is going to give a stone texture. And I'm going to use this throughout the foundation as well as the chimney. I got a little ahead of myself here. I wanted to paint these stones that I put in place just to see how it looked. So I'm using coffee stir sticks to build my porch up with a little mixture of hot glue and wood glue. I'm also using my easy cutter as well to cut these to the length I'd like. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint those that same brownish black paint color that I used on all the window frames. So now I'm using balsa wood to make my staircase, and at first I made these really wide stairs and I wasn't thinking, after I did that I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't want these like giant stairs. It doesn't make any sense. So I then chopped them half off. You'll see that change in a couple frames. Now I'm going to add the same balsa wood to the frame of the roof. I thought it looked pretty cool. This is the design I made for inside the windows. I thought it made a really cool effect. And that is cereal boxes I cut on my laser cutter. Gonna go ahead and paint those all brown as well. I don't know about you all, but isn't it satisfying when a piece of glue or paint comes up in one solid chunk? Just had to leave that in there. To make the glass part of the windows, I am going to use lamination sheets. I put the lamination sheets through my laminator, and now I have this hard plastic to work with. Now I put this, and then we got both sides. I added Mod Podge to my frames, and then I'm just gluing them on. The glue will leave like a film on the lamination sheets, but I want this effect because I want them to look kind of foggy as windows may look on a snowy day, or even maybe that's just the type of glass. It's old windows and it's not quite clear. I set the windows aside and now I'm continuing on the porch. There you see as I hacked the stairs in half, and I also added the carton stone texture to the other side of the stairs. Now I'm adding the balsa wood to finish off my stairs. That rectangular square hole on the side there will be my future fireplace. So that will be in the next video. And then I used my laser cutter to just cut out a simple base for my cottage, and I added some holes where I'm going to plan to add some lighting in the future. Now I'm going to just finish off painting those stones. I'm going to paint all the stones a black base, and then I'm going to use the dry brushing technique with whites and grays to bring out the texture of the stone, or the cartons. They give a wonderful stone texture and shows a little bit of dimension. I added the cottage to the base, so now I have some like nooks and crannies I need to fill. So I'm going to take the carton and fill all the nooks and crannies, as well as the area where the chimney meets the cottage. I need to fill in some gaps. Painting everything in black and then adding that dry brush technique. I'm adding some of this joint compound to fill in little spaces where the edge of the carton sticks out. I want it to look more dimensional as a rail stone would look with the sides. You're not going to see like a flat piece of stone. You need bumps and grooves and all that. I am using wooden chopsticks for the railings and the dowels between the railings. I'm not sure what they're called at this moment, but I'm using the chopsticks, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint those the same brown as I painted all the other wood. And dry brushing those stones. I cut out all my windows and then I'm going to glue them in place. Now this is a little tricky to do. I had to add a bunch of clamps, but it worked. Thankfully I had open windows to add the clamps. So now I'm making the front door. I cut this out of the cardboard boxes, and then I added a little bit of the laminating sheets for the window in the background there. And then I added a thin layer of the cereal box to kind of lock that laminating sheet in place. And then I used cereal boxes as well to add the paneling to the door, and I did this to both sides of the door. Now I'm going to paint one side blackish brown, and then I'm going to paint the front part of the door a red color, not a bright red, like a faded red, what a door would look like after time if it was red. Time to add some snow. I am using cotton balls here that I'm just kind of unrolling, and then I'm going to use a mixture of glue and white paint to mush them in place. I want it to appear to be snowdrifts. So, whoopsie guys, I remembered that I wanted to add moss to the house, and I already am starting this white snow technique. So I covered that up best I could, and then I proceeded to go ahead and add the moss now. This was quite a messy thing, but no problem. Any moss flakes that got on the snow, I was able to remove or paint over. Now back to making my white cotton ball snow. I added this all over the base, and then I used a mixture of it's like faux snow for miniature builds, as well as I like to add a little glitter to my snow, and I use some glitter to add that sparkle because snow has a beautiful sparkle. Super messy, guys, but super fun. So my door is dry now and I want to add a door handle. And I'm using these little jewelry clamp things. I'm going to use my wire cutters to snip off the little part where your jump ring hooks to or string hooks to when you're making a bracelet or a necklace. I'm going to cut that part off, and then I'm going to use the little copper color for the handle base, and then I'm going to use the other bits of the metal. I don't know if it's metal, but the other bits to make my own little handle. It's just very small and you might not even see it, but it adds a little touch. Since now I had all these little dangerous pokey metal pieces, I just used tape to clean it up. Adding a door frame in, I made from cereal boxes, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue the door in place. I'm not going to have a door that's functional. It's just going to be for looks. Don't tell Santa that his door doesn't open. He has magic, so he can get out easily if he needs to. So now I want to show you how to make a tree. These are great woodland trees. Not perfect, but is a tree perfect in the woods? No. You can find a few tutorials how to make these types of trees, and I'm going to show you how I made mine. You need jute string. I used green jute string. You need wire. I used 25 gauge wire. I think I'd like a little bit thicker or stiffer wire, but this worked just fine. You need some type of sticks. You can use balsa wood. I use some wooden chopsticks. Cut 2 pieces of wire to equal lengths. You're going to want to twist each end of the wires together and make little loops. These little loops is where you'll insert your sticks. Now, to help with keeping it in place, I cut out a cylinder I had to basically brace my wire, I guess you would say. You don't need the cylinder to do this. You can just use wire and some type of sticks. This just helps keep it a little bit straighter for the next step. So the next step, after you put your sticks in place, you kind of spread out the wire a little bit, and then you're going to cut little bunches of the jute string. You're going to layer these little bunches of jute string on top of each other until you get the desired height of the tree you want to make. So then you're going to want to hold each side of your wooden sticks. One you want to brace in place, and the other one you want to twist. You may need to fiddle with the little pieces of jute string in the process so they don't move around, but once you get going, they're going to basically lock in place by the twisting method. So then you're going to remove your sticks and take your tree out. If you made the little cylinder thing, take it out of the little cylinder thing. Now it's time to zhuzh your tree. I decide which side I want to be the top and which side I want to be the bottom. I like to basically kind of flatten my tree out and then trim a little bit as needed. And then I use a baby comb that I had from one of my kids that has really fine teeth. You could use any type of brush if you want to do this. And then I hold it in place to make sure I'm not pulling out any of the yarn pieces. If I do, it's not a big deal. And then I'm basically just combing it to separate the fibers of the jute string. You can do this as much or as little as you want. And you just play around with it until you get the look you like. All the little fibers that came out when I was combing it, I saved to the side, and I used those fibers to knit a wreath. Now I'm going to add some faux snow to the trees. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. On my next video, I'm going to be working on the inside of the cottage where Santa perhaps is sitting by the fireplace. We'll see how it goes, but stay tuned for that. If you like what I do, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in watching part 2 of Santa's Cottage, please ring that bell button because that will let you know when the next video is coming out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let's check out the final results.